Okay everyone, so you'd think that after one of the biggest flops in the history of games, the Day Before developer Fntastic would just melt away into irrelevance and their name would be left in the dust. But no, that is not the case. Instead, they have decided to come back. They've made a massive show of how they have in fact changed as a company and how they're now bravely stepping forward with a new game thanks to the support of their fans. But then very rapidly after, well, that game got cancelled. There's now another game, and it looked like it all blew up in their faces. So we've got a lot to talk about today. It's funny with Fntastic in the Day Before, they racked up so many videos across all of the internet when in reality the game that they produced was just not really that much at all. So I'll get you up to speed here. Before the launch of the Day Before, they came under fire for their volunteer policy, where they would use volunteer labor to complete work that would usually be things like paid translations, community management, marketing, and more stuff like that. Now this was all relevant because they were making the Day Before, and the Day Before was in fact the most wishlisted game on Steam at the time, and was all billed as a third-person, open-world, apocalyptic, zombie MMO shooter. It was essentially going through the checkbox of things that will tend to do well in Steam, but it also, right, it was kind of aping some of the, like, the poster design and stuff from The Last of Us. It was just cooking with a whole bunch of things that we already knew people liked. And that, in fact, was Fntastic's formula. Take a bunch of things that they know that people like and put them together in one thing. Of course, the Day Before's problem was that it released as a barely cooked loot shooter that didn't really represent what it was actually sold as, and certainly, right, had absolutely, like, no correlation between its quality, its feature set, and it literally being the most wishlisted game on Steam. So the game comes out, it's a total disaster, and then of course there's the follow-up where their YouTube channel ends up being stripped of videos that showed the game that they actually promised with the more expansive feature set and higher production values. They announced that they would actually be closing down as a studio. They killed their Discord, then they killed the YouTube channel, and they went silent. Their publisher, Mitona, basically mandated refunds for everybody who had bought the game, and actually some leaked documents suggested that the game already in the very early days had a refund rate of 46% against 200,000 purchases, which is going to be pretty damn painful. And of course for audiences it all felt like a really big scam. They took a look at the poster of the game that was channeling Last of Us vibes, they looked at the feature set, and the game just didn't have it. So it felt like it was selling the world and then just duping people into buying a totally undercooked early access game. That's something that we have seen before, and people would kind of say, oh, well, if 60% of people refund, but you still get like 200,000 sales, you've kind of scammed people, or at least hoodwinked them on a vision. Now, of course, that's not what happened. The game is gone. It's not a game that you can get, and the publisher did mandate those refunds. And remember, the way it went down is that the leaked document suggested 46% of people were already refunding. Then the publisher said, no, you all get a refund, right? So this has actually now formed the core of Fntastic's defense moving forward, where they're basically saying, listen, didn't really work, but refunds happened. We did not take money from people. It could not be a scam. That's what they said. But then things got a bit more interesting because out of Germany, 2 reports from GameStar and Game2 detail the game's development process. And as I'm sure you can imagine, their allegations are interesting. Things like constant build changes, including overhauling the character creator to match Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate 3. And in total, there being 3 different versions of the game in development across the 5 years. Now, Fntastic, of course, would be generally denying allegations. And with what's just happened now, one thing is for sure, Fntastic, specifically their founding duo of 2 brothers, they don't give up. Because 8 months later, 8 months after this all exploded in their face and they were the #1 negative news story in the industry, they returned. And that's the story you're about to hear today, a story made possible with support of today's sponsor. Longtime channel supporter Boot.dev, who have just got even better. Now, Boot are the best place for people like you and me to learn back-end development using Python and Go. They're actually structured as a community RPG, they're made by fellow viewers of this channel, and they've actually just got even better. You see, they've got a new UI, and in the world of clean, modern, soulless, they're leaning into being an RPG made by gamers. It's really neat. And then there's their new spellbook feature. It is so smart. So as you're progressing through modules like, say, the fundamentals of Python, you'll unlock new spellbook pages, and these are all searchable. They're full of context explainers, documentation, code examples, all accessible with a hotkey hotkey, so it's just right in line as you're learning, as you're coding, and it's all unlocked in line with your progress. And that's what I love about their platform. It's designed as an experience, not just a product. Their learning pathway is substantial, from the basics like Python fundamentals through to examples like building a server client Pokedex, and even a module on actually finding a job in the industry, as well as bonus deeper learning modules that go into topics that are just so worth knowing. And the thing with Boot is it's made by two brothers. You can tell big corporations just can't make an experience like this with this amount of heart. You can check them out today at boot.dev/BellyTheirNews, and there you'll get 25% off your first purchase. I would go annual for the biggest saving, and if they're not for you, that's okay. They've got a no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can even browse around their site, their materials, and their demos for free. Fantastic re-emerged late September 2024 with a statement entitled, "Everybody deserves a second chance." And of course, a Kickstarter. So you know what? The brothers have got nerve. They've got cojones, I'll give them that. Now, in the post, they apologize. They say that they take full responsibility for how things went, and then they reveal Fantastic 2.0, essentially turning over a new leaf for their company. What does that actually mean? Well, to put it briefly, they say honesty, transparency, professionalism, no more volunteer program, and constant updates to their community. Now, for some people's perception, the accompanying FAQ would immediately undermine part of that statement. The FAQ says that they're a smaller team now, but they do consist of the same people who made their previous games. But it says that some team members are helping on a goodwill basis, others juggling jobs, and others working only by the evenings. Now, given that the volunteer program was one of the big things that they said they were not going to do anymore, some people would see this to be a little bit of an undermining because, well, professional employees generally can't work on a goodwill basis. Now, of course, I get a company trying to be scrappy. If you're a founder, maybe you've got stock options, then yeah, sure, you got some skin in the game. But immediately, it did have them into risky territory. And even just from a project management perspective, when you've got people doing evenings and weekends, it's hard to actually ship something on time and on budget. Because when the game is getting made in people's spare time, well, that's just hard to predict. And of course, if you're going to be spending backer money, which of course they were because there was a Kickstarter, then that's even more of a problem. So their returning game was this, called Escape Factory. It came along with a Steam demo. It asked for 20,000 Singaporean dollars, which is about 14.8k USD, and they stated that if it fails, Fantastic would not be able to return as a company, and all of the funds put into the Kickstarter would be refunded. So basically they pitched this as being low risk. Basically, if we can't do this, we're going to give all the money back, and that'll be that. And taking a look at the game itself, it displays Fantastic's usual scrappy, creative fire, which is to say, it's kind of a knockoff of things that other people established. Oh, look, I'll be open about my biases. I do kind of look down on that when it looks to be so just like barefaced. But that being said, if you're taking the idea of Fall Guys, moving it into a new scenario, yeah, sure, maybe that could work. There's at least some sort of funny Victorian comedy about people getting horrible injuries and looms and things. But anyhow, I don't want to shock you, but the Kickstarter did indeed fail. They got 50 backers, but Fantastic lied, because they didn't leave. One thing becomes clear to me, and that's that Fantastic are, if anything, a tenacious bunch. They do not take failure for an answer. So following the failure of this Kickstarter, they did announce that Escape Factory would end. But they would not end. They said that their audience wanted a new prop hunt game. Now, for a bit of context here, they actually did a previous and successful game called Prop Night that was shut down in the wake of the day before's grand explosion. So what they're going to do is a new prop hunt game that they're calling Items, and along with that, a new plan. No crowdfunding. Some people at the studio would instead take on mobile game contract work to pay the bills. So with their bills paid, they could start to make this game. Now, a lot of the communications here went down on their heavily moderated Discord server. Some people on that server leaked to The Gamer, and according to those leaks to The Gamer, Fantastic are allegedly back to their old tricks with a little bit of fan labor. Let me know where you land in this one. So this time it's in the form of a map building competition. Entrants would create a map via a 2D drawing, 3D models, or any other style, including images, a description, balance considerations for the map, and of course the layout. Now the winning maps would get in the game, and as a result, your name would be on the map, right? Somewhere your name would be on it, and even better, you get a free copy of the game on Steam when it comes out. Big news. Now, of course, when a competition like this happens elsewhere, it tends to be for children, right? Like a cute contest where they get to be involved in a product that they love or something like that. And obviously, whatever they do will then be taken by professionals and be completely redefined and reworked into something that's final and shippable. When it's done by adults, it can fall into something very different that we call speculative work. It's where professional work is completed on the speculative promise that there will be some sort of reward afterwards. It's generally not a good thing, right? Like it's a red flag, put it that way. And well, taking a look at this, you could easily see an embattled company who don't have a lot of trust, but do have some people in their community who, through thick and thin, have decided to stick with them, which, I don't know, maybe I could be a little bit mean and say it reminds me of Bed Bath & Beyond investors. But anyway, all of that and them trying to crowdsource map designs for a prop hunt game that is, of course, all about the map designs. Now, of course, spec work is seen as a bad thing because the company benefits from the work by default, right? The work of many people without paying them for that labor. So it's one of those things where it really is a fine line. And again, a company can still use all of the ideas that didn't win. That's the thing, right? And they can build on those. They can be inspired by those to make maps for their own game. So in a way, like, it is crowdsourcing a hell of a lot of stuff. And you can see that it's, for a community-driven insular game, actually a really powerful way of generating ideas. But of course, the problem is, how do you do it? How do you get the ethics right? Now, that's not all that The Gamer were alleging. They said there's heavy use of AI amongst other things, and Fantastic actually responded with this tweet, strongly pushing back. Now, they did say the professionalism was one of the things that they would, be sort of bringing back in this new era of Fantastic 2.0. I would certainly say that from a public relations perspective, I can appreciate doubling down and giving a strident rebuttal to some piece of press that you feel is really, not charitable to you. I do understand that, but in context and with the reputation that they have, I would say that it probably makes them appear deluded. And that's definitely a risk that they run. Now, they do respond point by point. They frame the map design thing as basically community engagement, and, we're actually not getting free work from people. Any maps there would actually be developed by our team, and they pushed back heavily against the use of AI stuff. Now, of course, right now, it's all just mixed about. It's hard to prove either way, and some things here are genuinely a difference of opinion. For some, speculative work is a real red flag. For others, they basically say, well, you're free to enter whatever sort of deal you want. It's on you. Now, looking at the statement they tweeted, there are a few things that do seem a bit weird to me. As an example, they said that some people are working on a goodwill basis, but then in the tweet they said that, their team members are fully paid. I mean, can those things both be true? Goodwill basis, is that goodwill that will be transferable into some form of currency in the future? Or is it the case that the mobile game work they're doing actually does mean that people now can be paid? Hard to say, but there is one thing that appears to have changed, because the boys are back to Kickstarter. Yep, crowdfunding is back in the menu. Fantastic posted a survey screenshot showing that 87% of 1,492 respondents said that they would, yes, definitely, back a Kickstarter. And then the company said that in light of this survey, they will carefully consider their development plans, which I think basically means we're going to do a Kickstarter. Now, last time they did a Kickstarter, they got just 50 backers. So that's not really a great indicator. And it's certainly the case that clicking yes in a survey is nothing close to putting actual money down on a Kickstarter. That's something that we all know. I would say that the one thing they do have going for them here is the prop night audience. Some of those people will still, know Fantastic. They'll probably want prop night to be back or something that works on it, that builds on it. But let's be real, we've all seen the track record of this company. So, as it stands for the future, they've really set their own terms, right? They have said, community, we are Fantastic 2.0. Professionalism, transparency, honesty, constant updates, no volunteer program. And that means that we don't have to come to some sort of biting conclusion at the end of this video. Because if you ask me, they've just went and set the terms by which they should be judged. Their problem, though, is their past actions. Honesty is the foundation of everything that they have laid out. But how can you be honest when your past actions mean that people don't trust the thing that you say? And that may seem like a bit of an odd question, but there's actually a point to it. Honesty is an incentivized behavior if you are seen to be believable by the people you're being honest towards. If you are not trusted, if you are not seen to be believable, then honesty in its most true form is less incentivized, is less rewarding. The benefits of it are completely crushed by the fact that people don't trust you. And so that does mean that shifty business can be a little bit more expedient. Obviously, I'm not claiming they're doing shifty business, but certainly professionalism, honesty, transparency, and no volunteer program. Let's see how it shakes out. And speaking of things shaking out, there's actually a news story in Steam, and it's not the awesome Half-Life 2 stuff, it's actually their store policies changing, and if you want to learn about that, check out this video next.